Hi, it's Jesse, and I'm back again. Earlier, I had mentioned Leviathan, and so I wanted to come back and talk more about like evil in the world and also how we do judgment as opposed to how God does judgment. Okay? So, one thing that I want to start off by saying is that um, one of the reasons why we engage in judgment is because we have a need to have control of things. We want to feel empowered all the time, when we're not in control, we don't feel secure. And like passing judgments, it gives us a false sense of security, because we're limited to um, our own scope of power then. And when something more powerful comes along, then we are more apt to bow to it. We're more apt to be destroyed by it. Whereas when we rely on God to be the judge, when we lift up God, we um, we open ourselves up to a whole new realm of power, but it's one that requires trust and dependence. It's like we see our reality is kind of like a machine, where we can manipulate the variables and control things. But when we switch our perspective and make it where, God is in charge, then we free ourselves from this relationship where we dominate control, and we're more able to walk into dark places, knowing that God will never leave or forsake us, and that His Word will be a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. We don't have to be afraid so much because we have a God, so we don't have to worry so much. But one thing that we do judgments in error because we always want to judge people as either good or bad, you know, um, and instead we should be judging actions as, you know, good or bad, and recognizing that people make mistakes, and people are immature, and people, those people who are like bullies, they're the tough guys who try to push you around. Really, inwardly, they're cowards because they try to control everything else because they have no control over their lives if they're not controlling everything around them. But if they can see that that is like a lower standard to hold, a standard of weakness and cowardice, then they can recognize that their ways are wrong and they can rise up to a better way, a stronger way. It's been said in the Bible, when the Son of Man comes back, will he find any faith, Or is he just going to find a bunch of bullies and cowards, a bunch of people thinking that they have control over things. We need to recognize that, we're created in the image of God to be a reflection of Him. And so, in being that reflection, we need to recognize the way that God handles judgment and punishment, okay? Because, like in the end of days, with like Leviathan isn't sent to hell for being evil. Leviathan is cut up, put on plates, and fed to us. He is the food of the righteous. And not only that, but his skin is used as a tent for us. It's a covering, saying, you know what, you were once the one who drove us into things, but now you're the thing that covers our past, so we can walk into the newness of life with God, with Jesus. So recognizing that God doesn't put evil things in hell, you know, and I was reading through Jewish mythology. I'm still on it, right? But one thing that I came across was the story of this Rabbi Joshua ben Levi, and he had a story where he talked about how the Messiah took him to hell, and he saw the wicked there, and when the wicked saw Jesus, they cried out saying that this is the one who will bring us out of here. And when I read this, I was like, because I've listened to a lot of rabbis speak. Okay, I've listened to a lot of them defend their position for why they shouldn't believe in Jesus, how no one can sacrifice their own life to free you, how we all have to pay for our own mistakes, and it says it. I can't think of the place right now, but it says that, in the age to come, that people will have their own teeth set on for their own sins, and their children will no longer pay for their sins. That's true and correct. That is how it will be. But that doesn't mean that there isn't someone that's coming to save you and set you free. And as I read this, I think of, their reasoning that, someone can't lay down their lives for your sins to set you free from them. When the Messiah goes into hell, he's setting down his own life to enter in, He's breaking free the captives who are in there. His life, his presence is what is setting them free. You understand? So them saying that they don't believe that someone could lay down their lives, for the forgiveness of sins, it's an error right there, because this Rabbi Joshua ben Levi, he's incredibly old, you know, um, and much of their beliefs are founded on like his writings, Um, so this kind of it confirmed the reality of Jesus for me when I read this. Not that it was like confirmed before, but it's saying, I don't understand why the Jews can't believe in Jesus. I don't understand. They have all these. They'll find a reason in the text to say why he doesn't exist, but um, they they can't look at the man. They can't look at the stories and see that, yeah, he was real. And our own stories confirm, Jesus does go into hell and set the captives free. Jesus did this long before the rabbi spoke of the vision that he had, where the Messiah took him into hell to set them free, Um, but one of the things that he also talked about, and this is written in the Zohar, how God never really intended it for us to be shamed. We were never intended to be shamed in our sin. When we look at someone who's sinned, we should be moved with compassion, knowing that they are only engaging in it because they need to grow more, Um, but God never intended for people to be shamed by others. And this is proven, because when he sends a man into Gehenna, which is hell, the man is enveloped in smoke and brimstone so that no one else can see his shame, nor can he see anyone else's. You understand? Gehenna is not a place of punishment to kill you, but rather it's a place of punishment to purify you. It's meant to see, they couldn't see each other's shame, so they couldn't make themselves bigger or get their sins forgiven by pointing fingers, But when they saw the Messiah coming, they recognized him. So understanding here that hell is a place where sin is, yeah, it's a punishment. You sit in fire and brimstone, right? But it's for purification purposes, so that you can be set free, because the Messiah is the one that gets us out of there, So you're set free when the Messiah comes back and breaks open the doors, You have the option to be restored, And I thought this was all interesting. So just thinking on principles like these, the way, the foundation of our faith, going back to early Judaism, we can see how God set the example for us to judge, created in his image to be a reflection of his ceremony, to do as he does, um, but we chose a different way, we chose a lower path where we can maintain control and keep God out. But we got to come to this point where we recognize that that we do need God, that we can't make it without Him, because you know, the world is a very dark place, and there's not much that can be created in darkness. It's not much growth that occurs in the darkness, but it's only when the light comes down, you know, it's only when the sun is shining that growth is able to spring forth. Growth is not possible without light, so being covered by darkness is not a good thing. And it's always easier to give up the judgment in humility than it is to sit in the seat. What they say, the seat of the scornful, because it's not really the judgment seat of God. It's just you're very scornful and you're trying to take up the judgment seat and confine your brothers into a position of shame. And God never intended for us to live or walk in shame. And while I'm speaking here, that's about my point that I wanted to make in judgment. But I wanted to also point out on like the feast in the end of days, where we feast on Leviathan. One interesting thing that I read about there was, we have these customs of eating fish on the Sabbath and eating fish for Lent. And growing up, I grew up Catholic, right? I never understood why we couldn't eat meat and we had to eat fish on Wednesdays and Fridays, every day throughout Lent. I never really understood this until I read through the mythology on Leviathan, and apparently we feast on fish on these holy days of Lent and the Sabbath, because it's in preparation for the feast of the Messiah when Leviathan is slain. It's to prepare our taste buds to feast on the thing that has been trying to devour us for years. So I thought that was really interesting, how we do these things in preparation without knowing why. We just do them because this is the way it is. This is what, the Pope says we have to do. This is what the Church says we have to do, so we do it. But no, there's actual customs why we eat fish on Lent, and it is to prepare ourselves and also to like a dress rehearsal, so to speak, for when the Messiah returns and we feast on Leviathan. That's something. We didn't have that with the first coming, and I think that a lot of these teachings got lost throughout the years, because I know, like in the Catholic Church, we have our specific rituals that are done. We have our specific prayers that are prayed, and then the priest gives a 7-minute homily, and that is the extent of the teaching that you get. Of course, we read like 2 Old Testament scriptures and 1 from the Gospel, but I mean that's the extent of the Mass, and where we don't really learn a lot outside of the Mass, unless you're entering into the seminary and going into like divinity school. You don't have the opportunity to learn. And I actually went into divinity school, and I actually didn't learn anything about this, but reading through like the Jewish mythology, I began to learn about this, and I think that it's good to know, and I think that we need to encompass more of these things into today's teaching, so that we can all understand why we do what we do, and why it's important to follow in this path, and not sit in the seat of the scornful, but to walk as children of God, trusting in the Almighty above, learning that, He's preparing us on a path, and the end result will be great, but we have to learn these things as we go, because if we knew why we were doing it, we wouldn't devalue the ritual. We'd all understand why we were doing it. So I think that it's important to incorporate these things back into the church. And about the extent of the judgment that I have on the matter. That's all I have for today. Y'all have a good day.